Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. Absolutely delighted to be here this afternoon. I've been sitting at the front and really enjoyed this afternoon and all of the insight that has been shared. So I guess I've had the privilege of being in retail for over 25 years and have worked at a number of amazing retail organisations and surrounded myself with amazing people to learn from, and I am still learning. You know, we're all here today learning from when I started as a junior marketing executive at Argos many years ago, looking at above the line advertising and having millions of pounds worth of budget to invest in TV and amazing creative. Here we are today talking about AI and performance marketing, and I guess my journey has kind of been on that trajectory. I suppose what I like to do, and I have the pleasure of being invited to talk to at many different events, is just literally to share my journey and my experience, and hopefully some of that can resonate with many of you in the room. As I said, I've learned a lot. I am still learning. It's brilliant to kind of be at these types of events, network and meet such amazing high energy and like-minded individuals. So my journey started at Argos, and all of the brands and retailers I've worked at, I've landed when they've been going through change. And I think, here we are today talking about change, and how do you deal with change, and how do you embrace change, and how do you work with colleagues and your customers to educate them and make sure that they're equipped to deal with change. I guess I'm passionate about customers. That is who I am, what I do. I love to surprise and delight customers. And I also love to work with brilliant colleagues. So if you can have that combination of surprising and delighting your customers and having amazing colleagues and ensuring you're all moving in the same direction, I think there's quite a good recipe there in terms of generating growth and moving your business forward. So at Argos, when I joined, we were going through a hostile takeover. The Argos brand was pretty dull, to be honest. People weren't really engaged with it. It was a book full of product, quite a lot of product actually. How do you really engage? How do you get the most out of that product? And we've talked today about being an omni-channel retailer. We've talked about being multi-product, multi-channel. Well, that was the challenge we had at Argos many years ago. And again, it was brilliant to be involved in that change situation where we had a catalogue of amazing products. We've talked about the air fryer today. That's still selling, I'm sure, brilliantly these days at Argos. But, from jewellery to cat flaps to wheelbarrows to whatever it was, we had this plethora of products, but we weren't engaging it with customers. We didn't know how to engage technology. We didn't know how to get that customer proposition out there. And what we really had to do was think about those simple ways of talking to customers and making sure that they could engage with a brand that could deliver on those needs, and how we could surprise and delight customers in that way. So at that time, I was involved in some quite revolutionary technological advancements, such as Ring and Reserve, Click and Collect, understanding what being part of an omni-channel retailer looked like. And of course, it was scary, it was risky, there was an awful lot of change, it needed investment, it needed systems, it needed people to come in and kind of understand that journey. And I guess my other learning that I would like to share today, and it's been brilliant to hear about it this afternoon, is don't be afraid to fail. And I still think it's quite a taboo subject these days in organisations that I'm in. It is about testing, it is about trialling, it is about understanding the effectiveness of it. And of course we're all commercial. Of course we've all got to report to boards and ensure that we have commercially, financially and sustainable business models. But don't be afraid to fail. Be disruptive, be ambitious, be courageous, and take some of those decisions in order to grow your organisation. So Argos was a fantastic example of making a brand bright again, not just in the visual sense, but in the more strategic sense of engaging with customers on an omni-channel basis. I guess the next brand that I really wanted to just share with you all, and it's been fantastic because I've been reunited with a former colleague of when I was at Ocado, is Ocado. And I joined Ocado, it wasn't even branded Ocado, it was called Last Mile Solutions, and there was about 20 of us in a room in North London. And that was about to change habits of a lifetime. Ocado was about disrupting and taking on Tesco and taking on Sainsbury's and being maverick. And working with 3 ex-Goldman Sachs guys who were mavericks in themselves, going out there and raising money because we knew we could do something different about getting customers to buy their groceries online. Ocado was launched in the year 2000 when ASOS was launched. Of course, now, again, it's common currency to buy groceries online, buy clothes online. But at that point, it was new. It was revolutionary. We were being courageous. We were taking risks. John Lewis took their first ever external investment into Ocado. We were the rebels in the camp. We were doing things differently. We set up offices in a different way. We looked different, we dressed differently, we wanted to disrupt that marketplace. Did we get it right at the beginning? Absolutely not. Did we make mistakes? Plenty of them. Did we lose money? Yes. Were we doing something new and exciting? Yes. Did we take our customers with us along that journey? Yes. Here we are, 2024, and that brand is still absolutely living, breathing, and very proudly has grown to become much more of a technologically brand and has grown internationally, but still has that surprise and delight element of engaging customers at the very core of when it was set up 24 years ago. And I suppose we did things differently. And if I could share a couple of those examples, it might just get you thinking differently about it. You know, Tesco, brilliant. Asda, brilliant. Sainsbury's, brilliant. But their model was about bolting online at the back of the store. It wasn't the heart of what they were trying to do. They had hundreds of stores up and down the countries. They were selling product. It was about making sure that shopping experience was right physically, not virtually. Oh my gosh, here was Ocado run from dedicated distribution centres, starting to really look at the world of technology, the world of robots, the world of picking and packing, just-in-time management, and making sure we got those groceries out to customers, initially in North London, in 1-hour time slots. We got things wrong. We were late. You know, many of us in the organisation, you know, were in the distribution centres late on a Friday night, picking and packing, because we knew we had to get customers, we had to get the orders out to customers quickly. And one of the previous presentations today was about how could you go that extra mile for your customers, especially when things go wrong. How can you bolt on the bonus elements of that to assure that you're acquiring customers? And it was all about customer acquisition, especially in the early days. How could you really surprise and delight that customer? But also, how could you go the extra mile when we got things wrong? So how could you empower your colleagues when you go back to customers, colleagues, and ensuring that you've got that right customer proposition? How can you get that all coming together and not working in silos, but working absolutely as one? And certainly in those very, very early days, it wasn't about copying competitors. And I think sometimes we're all in, as today's landscape is changing and how digital marketing and performance marketing is moving forward, there is this danger of looking at what your competitors are doing and sometimes wanting to be in that space and copy that. Ocado was throwing everything just on its head and thinking very differently about it. So we didn't go out and recruit van drivers. I was in a porter cabin every Monday morning doing the inductions to brilliant people that were great at delivering customer service. So we had colleagues from all walks of life, and if they could drive a van, that was a bonus. If not, we'll put them through a driving test. But actually where it first came from was that they had to be brilliant, brilliant people because they were going to be delivering groceries to somebody's house. That's a real personal experience. That's about driving to your own personal space, knocking on the door, introducing yourself and delivering a product to that customer in the most professional and branded way. And if things went wrong, we needed to equip those brilliant colleagues with things on their van to put things right. So we did have branded oven gloves, we did have branded tea towels, we had bottles of wine, we had things for kids, we had this toolbox of gifts, bonus products to put things right when they went wrong. And I think as I reflect throughout my career and really reflect on the time that I was at Ocado, it really made me incredibly agile and incredibly customer focused to be entrepreneurial and to put things right when they went wrong. Because I think you then have that social impact, that social presence, which really takes your brand to the next level. And as we started to grow Ocado and as we expanded it by postcode, and we grew the brand and we learned from what was working and we learned from what was not working, we could really, really draw on that customer data and draw on that insight to allow us to expand the brand to further areas of geography up and down the country. We had brilliant people in the organisation. We had a lot of fun along the way. And I think that's really, really important as you're building brands and when you're being in brands, to be working with like-minded people that you can be open with, you can be transparent with, and you can share brilliant, brilliant experiences and have that continual dialogue with your customer base and learn from it. So Ocado was about changing habits of a lifetime, being maverick. Of course, in the early days, the Ocado brand was propped up in partnership with Waitrose, and we really had to manage that partnership very, very carefully. You know, to have Waitrose to back us was fantastic. What an iconic partnership we had, but we had to look after that brand. And I took that role very, very seriously, that we were protecting that brand in terms of its values, its history, its legacy, but still going full speed ahead with this new baby brand called Ocado, which actually really disrupted the marketplace. So Ocado was about thinking differently, doing things differently, and I suppose part of that, I had a fire within me to think, right, one day I will run my own business and I will kind of be taking some of these skills as I move forward with my own journey, which I'm sure many of us have in that room as we expand on our own journeys. The next brand I did want to touch on, because I left Ocado after just under 5 years, had an opportunity to go to Sainsbury's. And what we were trying to do at Sainsbury's again was an absolute pivotal time of change, and it was about making Sainsbury's great again. So Justin King came in as a CEO, again, a fantastic leader, a fantastic communicator, very visionary, very, very engaging, and pulled a leadership team together to make a great British brand great again, because it had lost its way. I remember there was no product on the shelf. The basic things weren't being done right. It was just a big, shiny head office. And really, it totally lost its way and its dialogue and its relationship with its customers. So if you look at my journey, hostile takeover bid with Argos, embracing technology, looking at omni-channel retailing, into a startup at the height of .com, which is Ocado, and building that and really thinking and acting differently, to moving into a much, much bigger beast of Sainsbury's that needed to be made great again. So that the lesson in that organisation was absolutely going back to basics. So I can remember vividly what we were trying to do. we rebranded it very, very quickly. I remember when I joined, and it wasn't called the head office, it was the store support centre. And the reason why it was rebranded the store support centre is because we got feedback from our colleagues that they were disengaged, they were not feeling valued. They'd worked at Sainsbury's years, they were doing their best job, no one came out to stores to see them, no one asked for their ideas, just doing their job. Well, actually, there's more in life than just doing your job. You want to feel valued. Everyone wants to feel valued. Everyone wants to know their worth. What do you think about this? What would you do? And I remember one of, Justin's done this in many organisations that he's been in, but we very quickly rolled out a, Tell Justin scheme. Tell Justin what you think we should be doing here. Go and talk to customers. Let's get back to the shop floor. Let's value our colleagues and let's turn this business round so it's colleague-led. It's not head office-led. Let's shut down all the voicemail systems and let's get everyone out of that office back into stores, working in stores. The amount of times I was on the customer service tannoys, I can remember it vividly at Christmas. We're there helping our colleagues work throughout that Christmas golden quarter, selling mince pies, selling off turkeys on Christmas Eve, but being back on the shop floor and absolutely supporting colleagues. And I think there's a real message in terms of how you grow your businesses and how you expand in terms of taking your colleagues with you throughout that journey. Whatever level, it's making sure they understand the strategy, understanding the vision, understanding your values, and taking everyone with you on that journey. So Sainsbury's was about turning that round, getting the basics things right, and making sure colleagues absolutely had that voice. So they started to feel valued within that organisation and that transformation of change. So Sainsbury's was a great place to be, and it's fantastic now, to see how the supermarket industry is changing. Obviously, the challenges of the more value-led offerings coming in and how they needed to respond to that as well. But certainly my role there at Sainsbury's was very much a brand change management role and really starting to move the online side of the business forward. So that was a fantastic place to be. I just wanted to share a couple of other examples before we, open it up and get some Q&As and try and get some discussion around this. I then moved to Mamas and Papas as their first ever female marketing director. And that was a family-run organisation. So many of us in this room have probably been in many different types of environments. And it's how you adapt to those different environments. And Mamas and Papas was all about passion for parenting and changing a product-led business into a consumer-led business. So there was loads and loads of products being developed, which was amazing. Push chairs, high chairs, cots, so many different products. But they didn't really understand how that could fit to the customer. So it was really a great kind of experience to be in, to understand who the customer was and to make sure commercially and for the benefit of the customer that the product was meeting that customer demand. The other great thing during my time at Mamas and Papas was how we took that brand globally and how we had fantastic international success and understanding all those international markets. And as many of us know in this room, when you take your brand into European international markets, that presents other challenges. And I suppose the other challenges that I, again, kept coming back to was understanding the culture, understanding the territories, understanding what the customers wanted, and to make sure that you had that real great, clear product proposition on how you entered those markets successfully and continued to get that feedback. So again, another example, family-run organisation, growing that organisation to become much more customer-centric, embracing technology along the way, joining departments up. It was a family-run business, successful family-run business run for many years, but many different silos along the way. So it is, as we've talked about this afternoon, joining those silos up, making sure you have a very clear vision and growing your business. But it suffice to say, as we grow all of our businesses, and we've heard a lot this afternoon, it's an ongoing journey. You're learning all of the time. You're understanding what's working, what's not working. You're learning, you're understanding about new landscapes, new retail marketing, performance marketing. You're trialing, you're testing. You're constantly looking at numbers, you're constantly looking at data, and that's not going to change. My advice in all of that is to keep things simple, because it can very easily become quite over-consuming, and you can sometimes lose track in terms of where you are. And I look at brands today, I look at brands that are reinventing themselves, starting up, growing, different stages in terms of their growth. And it is those brands that stand out in terms of where their brand is, what purpose that brand has, a clear set of values, how their colleagues are treated, how they're valued within that organisation, and how they're really taking and accelerating their growth to the next level. So hopefully I've wrapped up this afternoon some of the great insights that we've all listened to this afternoon as well. And I hope that it's given some of you some food for thought in terms of when you go back into your own organisations and your own roles, to maybe just reflect in terms of where you are, whether that's in terms of thinking differently, acting differently, and most importantly, to surround yourself with people that are supporting you in terms of your role and supporting how you're contributing in terms of your organisation achieving its strategic objectives. And also remember, and throughout all of my journey, I've also run my own business, non-exec directive on boards, many different consultancy roles in a number of retail organisations. My advice I'd love to leave you on is to sometimes stop, reflect, and to celebrate success, because naturally there's this rush to get to the next level. We're not doing good enough. We need to move forward. We need to be doing this. That's not quite right. Not sure. Just stop, reflect, think about where you've come from. Celebrate the success. Celebrate the brilliant people you've got working in your organisation. Value them. And it's so important to kind of have those reflections and have that feedback, enabling everybody to move forward into the next direction of where you're going. So I suppose if I wanted to just wrap up my time this afternoon was to, again, thank you very much for inviting me to wrap up this really eventful and insightful afternoon. It is, for me, surprising and delighting customers the whole time. It is about looking after your colleagues, and it's about having a strong brand with really clear values that you can really kind of get that insight and that data to take your customers and making sure that you're engaging with them throughout that journey. So I hope that's helpful. I think we are now probably going to break soon and invite any questions or Q&A to wrap up the rest of this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. Should we take a seat?
Yep.
So I'm living a few of your values right there, actually. Steph's not feeling very well, so okay. I'm looking after one of my colleagues in taking the Q&A right now. So let's kick off with a question, and it was so interesting listening to your incredibly sage advice and ways to look at things and step back and bring some calm into a hectic world. I want to jump in with asking about, you spoke about not being scared to fail. So I'm going to go right in and ask, what was your biggest failure across each one of these brands? What was one of the big things you did and you thought, oh, that was a big one, but we learned something?
Yeah, no, and that's a brilliant question. And I think just on the subject of failure, so, I'm a parent and I've got 2 daughters, and I always say to them, don't be afraid to fail. And I think that's just a lesson in life, because I still think there's this anxiety about, if you fail, am I going to be blamed for it? Is it going to be costly? Will I lose my job? All that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important in life to be courageous and to have a go. And if things don't work out, oh my God, you kind of learn from it. So I suppose to answer your question, just to put that into context, I suppose I left Ocado, which was incredibly maverick and entrepreneurial, and we were taking on the world, and we had a great time doing it, to moving into a huge corporate organisation such as Sainsbury's. And that culturally was a huge shift for me. Because I thought, gosh, this all feels and looks quite different. This is quite corporate. I've got to almost, not change, but almost behave or try and conform to what a corporate needs me to be like. And I remember presenting at one of my first board meetings and presentations that I was super, super ambitious that we could turn their online business around, like really, really quickly, and came up with this proposition that if we didn't deliver online groceries to Sainsbury's customers within an hour, those customers would get £10 off their next shop. And presented this marketing plan and proposition to the whole board, including the CFO, who just looked at me as if I was completely mad. Commercially, financially, Sainsbury's actually was all about, at that stage, just getting product on the shelf. Not even thinking really about the online business, and not actually even thinking about a 1 hour time slot and then actually giving customers £10 if we didn't deliver. And of course we weren't equipped to do that. And it kind of got blown out, but I knew we had something. And it did, that marketing plan failed. But I did go back 6 months later, and we had, got insight, got examples, got research, developed the business to the next stage, went back 6 months later and got it approved. And that for me was a failure, but then it was a success, because what it did, it turned the mindset of the online team around to say, well, if we're going to make this a success at Sainsbury's, we don't want to be losing lots of £10. So it actually gave everyone that kind of sense of urgency and a sense of purpose and focus that we've got one shot at this and we've got to do it right.
What an incredible response! Yeah, I love the way that you posed a big question, you challenged their thinking, and kept going, and come back to the ask months later, and finally got it over the line. I don't remember that actually. And
I think with that, when you do fail, of course you take it personally and you're bruised, and I think there's a massive thing in business and life about resilience. How do you come back from that? How do you think, right, I've got a good idea, okay, I've sold it in and it's just been fundamentally rejected and I've been told no, but how do you kind of bounce back knowing that customers at that time at Sainsbury's wanted a better experience and wanted an organisation to deliver? And I knew we'd done that before at Ocado, so it was possible. I just needed to persuade a much bigger corporate organisation to change in that way.
Just like that, effortless.
Not really.
It's incredible. Sorry, I should have said. I'm sure people have taken the note. Yeah, scan the QR code. I've got some questions coming through here. I'll also ask the audience in a moment if anyone wants to stand up and ask Claire a question. Let's talk about Argos. Because I love the Red Book of Argos. I've got to say, I vividly remember when I gave my Christmas list to my mum that I'd write the page number, how far down, the colour,
catalogue.
the size.
I mean, the catalogue, it just got bigger and bigger. It was just, and I did so many photo shoots with it. It was just the Bible in so many people's houses. We did research that everyone had the Argos catalogue. It was just iconic.
And what was that like? I mean, that was what Argos represented to me. So I feel like when the catalogue left, a bit of Argos died for me. So like, were you involved in the business at that time?
I'd left by the time they'd made the decision to remove the catalogue, but I was following it at the time, and I thought, oh my gosh, is this what a decision to now make Argos digital, because they hadn't physically got that like catalogue, which was part of that brand for so long. And interestingly now, strategically, they're kind of part of Sainsbury's, so it's all kind of gone full circle, and you can get those thousands of products through supermarkets now, and obviously through Argos hubs. But a brave move to remove that catalogue, but obviously very successful in terms of for the leadership to make that decision, because they've obviously had that confidence to think, we've now taken this Argos brand on this digital journey, that we now feel confident that we can do it without a physical book, and we can do it in the digital landscape. And I think that's a really brave decision to make.
Absolutely. I think, in terms of retailers that are really pulling that omnichannel journey together, I can really see Argos and Sainsbury's and the partnership with Nectar, and how that's connecting the digital and physical world working so well. And
I think on that point at Argos, when I joined, I was really young, raw kind of marketing graduate, but Argos was on its knees, and it was about survival of the fittest, really. It was kind of down, dull, it had its catalogue, but there was no real kind of energy or customer engagement with it. So it had to evolve, it had to modernise, and it had to embrace new technologies. And we've seen over many, many years, there has been so many retail casualties along the way, because brands haven't taken those risks and engaged with those technologies and taken their brands to the next level. So Argos will always have a special place with me, because it made some bold, brave decisions at the right time to help it grow.
Do you think as well, just on that point of not making big decisions, do you think, what would you talk about the risk of looking over your shoulder too much, having a look at what your competitors are doing, and perhaps not making decisions for yourself?
I've been in so many boardrooms where, there's just been this unhealthy interest about the competitors, and that we have to be doing exactly the same thing. And of course, you have to follow your competition and your competitors, but you've got to have confidence in your own DNA. You've got to have confidence in your own brand and your own customers. And if you're permanently thinking that, oh, that's a good idea and we've got to adopt that and stop doing that, I just think it's just too short term, it's not long term, it's not strategic, and it's just kind of making some really knee-jerk decisions, in my experience. But when you're in it for the long term, you've got to have that courage of conviction to keep going and believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, someone gave me the analogy of you shouldn't be looking over your shoulder too much when you're driving a car.
No.
That's what's any questions from the audience? Anyone brave enough? No? Is that one?
Thank you very much, Claire. Often in organisations, you've got the change makers who kind of get it, and then maybe some who are resistant to the change for whatever reasons. How do you deal with that scenario?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm sure many of us have been in those situations. I think, you have to deal with key stakeholders in different ways and really try and get them on board. The organisations that I've been in, there has been huge amounts of change, and people are quite resistant to that. And I think in senior roles that we're all in, sometimes you have to make quite hard and brave decisions around the people that are with you to kind of take that change forward, and not always people are on that same journey. And it's probably those people that don't want to be on that journey and not right for your organisation long term. So I think you kind of have to make some quite difficult decisions. I think there are always people that want to come on that journey with you and don't necessarily know how to, and need a bit more time in terms of mentoring and support. So I think you just have to look at the makeup and personalities and just make the vision really, really clear in terms of where you're going and the roles for all of those individuals, and support them. And it gets to a point where you then kind of know the ones that are with you and the ones that are not. And that's when you have to make quite brave decisions, because the ones that are not, can sometimes cause problems at a later stage. So it's just about knowing who to take with you, who to support, and who that maybe it's not right for them. Not easy. It's people management, it's change management. But I think if, as from a senior level and a strategic point of view, if that's the decision that you're going on, you've got to make sure that you've got the right personalities and the right skill sets in order to achieve that.
Fantastic. Who do you want on the bus? I keep using vehicle analogies today. That was absolutely amazing. I think that's, unless there's any more questions from the audience, maybe we've got time for one more if anyone's bursting. No.
Well, I just hope people still buy things from Argos, buy their groceries from Ocado and Sainsbury's, and if you've got kids in the room, I hope you bought stuff from Mums and Papas.
I've ticked all of those for me personally, I have to say, yes. Can we, Claire, thank you so much.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
Today.
No,
Had
thanks
an
for
unbelievable
inviting me.
time. One more round of applause.